the Constitution and how you view it, and that iconic shot that we always seem to come to you with, but I'm not sure I can ever get enough of it. I'm sure you feel the same way. Table Mountain hanging over the House of Parliament, and it's really busy here at the moment. I think all the guests are arriving as the event is set to start at about 9 o'clock this morning. So we'll continue to broadcast until then, and I'm sure get a lot of the dignitaries that are arriving. We're very honoured to have in our company right now our two speakers, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the NCOP. So nice to have Thandi Modisa and, of course, Madam Baleka Mbete. Good to have both of you. Thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning to the listeners.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
And thank you for being here to celebrate with us the 20 years.
And it is a big celebration today because, I mean, when we look back and you take a look at those photographs on the wall, going back all those years and having a look at it as a country where we've come to, I mean, how does it make you feel, particularly as you being a part of the whole process?
Well, part of what it does is it reminds you that it was not smooth sailing, it was not easy to get to that point, and therefore we have this moment today to reflect. So South Africa can actually take account of what had happened, what was the context, so that we know when we today are grappling with issues in society that it was never going to be easy.
It wasn't ever going to be easy, but it was something that within 2 years had to be adopted. And I mean, I think the big thing and why we look at it this year is that it was also the adoption of the National Council of Provinces in this particular year. And that was a big milestone for South Africa.
It was a great shift from the old Senate with all its other changes, the tricameral, the presidential council. And it was important that there is a shift because with the setting up of these provincial legislatures and provincial administration, you devolved powers down and you needed a coordinating body which would really talk to the unitary status that we wanted as South Africa without having said no to the federal elements.
Yeah. I mean, there's always talk now of dissolving that provincial layer of government. I mean, what do you think of that, and what do you read into statements like that?
Well, I think that South Africa must talk about it. It is something we agreed to as a country. Do I agree that you completely do away with the provinces? No. But I do think that there is room for us to talk at whether we need to amalgamate some. We need to maybe also look at the powers that have been developed to municipalities and to provinces. So we need to create more synergy because, in fact, that is the focus of the NCOP.
Let's talk about the Constitution and particularly when we come to what happens in the National Assembly. And there's always that talk of the President breaking the Constitution, you yourself accused of breaking the Constitution, and many issues. I mean, that is at the forefront and it's sacred for all parliamentarians. How does it make you feel when you hear all of these things being thrown about?
Well, as South Africans, we often use very hard language and often we really don't understand what we're saying. We actually are totally exaggerating things. We're usually taking things out of context. But I thought, Leanne, let me take the opportunity also to say to our viewers and listeners, we have invited a group of about 100 young people, students coming from institutions around Cape Town. Why? Because we think it's very, very important for them to be there, to have the opportunity to see and hear those who were involved in the crafting of the Constitution, because we are going to have a number of them who were involved even in the administration, people like Mek Maharaj, people like former Minister Bridget Mabandla, Leon Wessels, who are going to be in the panel that will talk. Because often when we talk about the Constitution, it's just something that is in the air. But I think it's important to also be able to pose questions and engage the people who are involved. Also to cast an eye and reflect on the background to the writing of the Constitution. because the background was very bloody, was very violent, but what also came through was the importance of leadership. People and the role played by people like Oliver Tambo, who's very little known in South Africa, but in fact, his role, his contribution, his leadership was quite critical in shaping what we now have as a constitution. So I feel great, I feel honored, I feel very fortunate to have been there, to have participated in some of it, and to still be here, to have come through the 20 years, which in my view was a theater where we were implementing, we were trying to see how things really are supposed to work. And it's now a moment to reflect, to talk about whether we think some things must be revisited. So it's a good moment for South Africa.
It certainly is. And I mean, you can see how South Africans respect and want to uphold the Constitution. But sometimes they feel that the National Assembly and Parliament in particular doesn't uphold the Constitution. And that aimed at the President himself. Again, and I hate to push you on this, but do you feel that Parliament can handle things differently, perhaps going forward?
I think, Leanne, even as you are going back to that issue, my question is, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the constitutional judgment? Isn't it an instrument for us from moment to moment to be able to reflect and say, there is one of us who plays the role of just focusing on this constitution, and therefore sometimes pulling us back and saying, look at this thing, maybe the Chapter 9 institutions are supposed to be given a little bit more powers. Mind you, none of those things are finally that final, because this is a living document. This is a document that is about our lives. When we have implemented things in terms of the unfolding of our relationships, our working relations on an everyday level, sometimes we are going to differ about how we do things, what so-and-so did, and therefore we need there to be a moment of reflection. And I'm saying the way I take what the question you are raising is that it's one of those moments, and in fact there had been many before. There will still be many going forward, and none of them mean the heavens have fallen. It simply points to us an area that we should perhaps rethink, reflect, engage about, and find better ways on an ongoing basis for going forward.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning, and to you as well, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for being with us, Thandi Modise, and of course Baleka Mbete, that are here today. Of course, this is the 20th anniversary of the Constitution of South Africa. We're broadcasting from here. All the dignitaries are arriving. We're grabbing them as and when we can. I can see members from the DA, I can see members from the IFP here, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to everyone. Stay tuned to the program.